So I was trying to get with this the whole thing about how God was always there, even though I wasn't praying to Him or I didn't know He was there. And it was my third tour in Iraq, and by this time I didn't want to hear about any gods or anything like that because I was fighting a war against somebody else's god that hated me originally because we had trained the people of Afghanistan during the Cold War. We trained Osama bin Laden. We gave them all these weapons and all these things. And when Russia finally did leave, because we weren't helping them fight for their freedoms, we were just helping them get rid of one of our enemies. And Russia, like us, spent a lot of time, energy, and money trying to take control of Afghanistan. And don't get me wrong, it was a beautiful place, and it's at the base of the Himalayas, and it's really hard to get around, and you see all these crazy poppy fields everywhere. And on the bases there, you never saw security or anything like that. It wasn't like a war like you think. It wasn't like a camp where you just have all these security positions, fighting and fences and everything like that. No. We have a bunch of other ways of defending that, but what I saw was, what is there in Afghanistan other than the fact that we are now fighting a war against a Muslim / culture that we helped create and make more powerful. Fast forward a bunch of years and I'm in Iraq for my third tour, and we're about to leave out on this convoy, and I was with this special unit called the Rockhounds, and we basically just traveled with anybody that was free to provide a security outlet for us. And sometimes we just did it on our own, even though we didn't have gun trucks and all that stuff like that. And we were just a bunch of old tractor trailers and a bunch of really good, strong, hardworking men with a desire to make things better for the troops on the ground. And in doing so, we got to see a lot of combat, and we got to see a lot of road and a lot of non-road. And this one night, before we went out on this run, and it was a short run, because it was just coming off the back of another very long run, and all we had to do was follow in on this convoy late at night through Fallujah into Camp Fallujah, where we were home based out of, and we were sitting around. And this was a reserve CB unit, tactical movement team, TMT team, basically tactical movement team. and they would just provide security for other things and troop movements. And they were basically, we were hitching a ride with them to get back to Fallujah. And after sitting through a very long convoy brief and then sitting around and waiting for all these guys to get, and by guys, the reservist teams that were in Iraq, especially for the Seabees, they were super excited, but they all had jobs to go back to. And they were all much older than we were. They all got in this big circle. They didn't invite the rest of us, but me and my few truck leaders and guys were sitting there as they were circled around with one guy in the center holding a Bible, and they were all putting their hands on top of each other's shoulders in a circle and praying for a safe trip. And I remember just laughing, be like, and talking to some of my guys. I was like, I don't need God. I've done this enough times where I don't have to worry about anything else. And I was convinced that I had done this enough times that I didn't really need to pay attention to anything that they were saying or the God that they were praying to. And for some odd reason, my and Dave's truck ended up being the tail truck on this thing. And we had already gotten a bunch of rests, more rest than we had gotten in a long time before this. And this had been another day in the life of being in Iraq. You had just got used to always being tired, and when you weren't tired and you weren't truly focusing, things could go wrong fast. And when you didn't even bother to really make sure your comms were good, because technically it was only about, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour drive tops, and even less if it wasn't a war zone. And it was pitch black out that night, and you couldn't see anything, and not that our headlights were very good anyways. And the convoy teams all, except for us, all ran with their lights off. So we were not even running with our lights on. We were just running with our running lights on, which were mostly blacked out anyways. And me and Dave got talking, and the next thing I know, I was like, hey, can you see the trucks ahead of us? And then we heard something come over the radio about a possible ambush. And I don't know what happened, but basically what happened was some power lines had snapped and they were just kind of hanging, not completely in your view, and we ended up hitting one of those, and it was like a loud spark, because it was a live power line just hanging down the middle of the road. And we had no idea where we were, and we were in the middle of a city that you couldn't even, it was so dark out, you couldn't even see the buildings from the center of the road. And we were trying to catch up, but not to go too fast, because we're also trying to look for anything that's going to blow up on us. We got to a point where we had gotten so numb to everything around us and everything like that, and we were truly scared because we had lost our convoy. We had lost our navigation, and we couldn't see. And for some odd reason, after about 30 minutes of not being able to see anything, we almost run into the back of the convoy right outside the Fallujah camp. And I always just looked at it as, whew, that could have gone so much worse. But I had literally been mocking God and saying how crazy it was that they were wasting our time praying to Him when we should have just been on the road. But thank God was there, as He always is. And that's not even a bad one for me, but that's the truth. That's the way I see it. That's His power. Even though I didn't even believe He existed at the time. And I believe that, but at the same time, I believe that I couldn't believe He could allow such a crazy thing like this war to happen. But now I realize it wasn't God that allowed this to happen. It was us. And it was our loss of compassion and mercy and our forgetfulness of history that had made it so that we were fighting against a Muslim terror that we had once used to eradicate our enemies. And isn't that just the way it is? Huh? You forget where you came from, you'll never truly know where you're going. God was always there. May God bless us all. One love, one race, under Him. For all you racists out there, that's the human race. Our lives matter. His life mattered. Jesus loves us yesterday, today, and for all of eternity. God is always there.